least, that's what he believed. The official story said accident, train tracks. But Malcolm saw his father's skull caved in and his body cut nearly in half, and he knew what hate looked like when it was finished with you. His mother tried to hold 8 children together on her own. She couldn't. The state called it a nervous breakdown. They called it insanity. They took the children. Malcolm was 13 when they split up his family and sent him to a foster home where he was fed well and treated like an intelligent pet. He was sharp. Everyone said so, top of his English class. But when he told his teacher he wanted to be a lawyer, the man smiled and suggested carpentry instead. Be realistic, he said. You're a nigger. Malcolm didn't argue. He learned something more useful than grammar that day. He learned that the system would let you in just far enough to show you where the ceiling was. Boston first, then Harlem. He was 17 and suddenly free in a way that felt like flying and drowning at the same time. He combed his hair until his scalp burned, wore zoot suits, danced at the Roseland, sold drugs, ran numbers, slept with white women because it felt like theft, like taking something he wasn't supposed to touch. He called himself Detroit Red. He was performing survival, and beneath the performance was a boy whose family had been destroyed, whose father had been killed, whose mother had been institutionalized, who had been told his dreams were too big for his skin. The hunger wasn't for money. Money was just proof. The hunger was for respect in a country that had never given him any. So he chased it in the only economy that would let him compete. Crime gave him what America wouldn't: a territory, a reputation, a feeling of being feared, which is close enough to being respected if you squint. But the logic of that life is simple. You go up until you go to prison, or you go dead. Malcolm went to prison, 21 years old, burglary, 10 years. And this is when the story should have ended. Another sharp black kid ground down by the machine. Except his brother visited him in prison and handed him a different script entirely. The Nation of Islam taught him that white people were devils, literally, genetically, created by an evil scientist 6,000 years ago to rule through deception. It sounds absurd until you remember what country Malcolm was living in, what century, what he'd seen done to his father, to his mother, to himself. The theology was strange, but the diagnosis felt true. The world was exactly as cruel as the nation said it was. And for the first time in his life, Malcolm had an explanation that didn't make him the problem. He read everything, copied the dictionary by hand to improve his vocabulary, taught himself history, philosophy, religion, not to escape prison, to weaponize his mind. When he got out, he wasn't Detroit Red anymore. He was Malcolm X, the X for the name stolen from him, the identity erased by slavery. He became a minister, a recruiter, a believer. And he was extraordinary at it. He could speak for hours without notes and hold a crowd like a wire pulled tight. He didn't ask for integration, he demanded separation. He didn't appeal to white guilt, he mirrored white rage. He told black Americans they were beautiful, powerful, chosen, and that the enemy wasn't poverty or ignorance, but whiteness itself. It was clean, it was total, it was psychologically intoxicating. The nation grew. Malcolm became its face, more famous than Elijah Muhammad, the man he called the messenger of God, more magnetic, more dangerous in the eyes of the FBI, who tracked him, recorded him, feared him. He married Betty, had daughters, built a family, but the role he played in public required a kind of absolute certainty that doesn't leave room for tenderness. At home, he was a father. On stage, he was a prophet. The distance between those two men kept growing. Then he saw Elijah Muhammad, the man he'd given everything to, was sleeping with his secretaries, young women in the nation, fathering children with them, and the organization was covering it up. Malcolm tried to rationalize it, tried to stay loyal, but something cracked. Not his faith in the theology, his faith in the man. Once that broke, everything else started to tilt. He made a comment about Kennedy's assassination, called it chickens coming home to went to Mecca, saw Muslims of every color praying together, and realized the theology he'd built his identity on was too narrow, too American. He came back softer in some ways, sharper in others. He started talking about human rights instead of just black nationalism, started building coalitions, started imagining a broader fight. He was evolving, finally thinking beyond the script he'd been handed. But the nation didn't forgive defectors. His house was firebombed while his family slept inside. He got them out, barely. He kept speaking, kept organizing, but he was exhausted. You can hear it in the late interviews. He sounds like a man who's already gone. He told people he wouldn't live to see his autobiography published. He was calm about it, not resigned, just aware. 3 men shot him in the Audubon ballroom in front of his wife and children, 21 times. He was 39. The men were a Nation of Islam. At least, that's what the conviction said. The files were sealed, the informants were everywhere, and the full truth of who wanted him dead and why is still buried in redacted documents and conflicting testimonies. What Malcolm X wanted was dignity. What he built was a movement that terrified the same people who needed to be terrified. But the cost was his peace, his safety, his ability to grow old with his children. He became the thing he had to become to survive, and then that thing consumed him. He once said he didn't expect to live long enough to read his own autobiography. He was right about that too. But here's the irony. The book became his most enduring voice, soft enough to reach people who would have never listened to the speeches, human enough to show the doubt beneath the certainty. He spent his life trying to be larger than himself, harder than his pain, louder than his fear. And the thing that outlasted him was the part of the story where he admitted he was still learning, still changing, still uncertain about what came next. He died before he could finish becoming whoever he might have been. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the man we remember isn't the one who would have survived. Maybe survival would have required compromise, silence, softness. And Malcolm X was never going to choose that. He chose the wire. He walked it until it snapped. And we're still arguing about whether that was courage or something closer to surrender.